to the greatest football fans in the history of the NFL that occupied the old Kingdome back in the 70s and the 80s, and now CenturyLink Field. They called themselves the 12s. I say thank you. You guys made and still make pro football really fun.
The news of Kenny Easley's passing hit like a sudden, heavy silence, one of those moments that makes you stop what you're doing and just breathe for a second. 66 years old, a towering figure in football history. A man whose name still echoes through stadiums and conversations whenever the greatest defenders to ever touch the field are mentioned. And now he's gone. In the hours after the announcement, you could almost feel the collective heartbeat of the football world skip, as though the sport itself was remembering one of its fiercest guardians. And that's where the story begins, not with statistics, not with trophies, but with the weight of loss. Because Kenny Easley wasn't just another Hall of Famer. He was one of those rare athletes whose presence felt larger than the game. The kind of player who didn't just compete, he commanded. From the moment he stepped onto the field, you could sense something different. Coaches saw it. Teammates respected it. Opponents feared it. And fans, they felt it in their bones. The announcement of his passing arrived quietly, almost unexpectedly, on a November day. He died at 66, leaving behind a legacy that is impossible to measure in numbers alone. But if you want a place to start, look at the Seattle Seahawks, the team that shaped him, and the team he helped shape in return. The moment they confirmed the news, the sadness was immediate. You could tell this wasn't just a former player to them. This was someone who represented their identity, toughness, heart, and an unshakable drive. He spent his entire NFL career, 7 intense, unforgettable seasons, from 1981 to 1987 with Seattle. And yet, what he accomplished in those 7 seasons is what most players don't reach in twice that time. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pro selections, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, a spot on the 1980s All-Decade team, 32 interceptions in just 89 career games, and 10 of them in a single season, one of the greatest defensive performances the league has ever seen. But here's the thing people don't always talk about. Kenny Easley didn't play football like it was a game. He played like it was a confrontation, him versus whoever dared to cross his path. Fearlessness was more than a trait, it was his signature. Opposing players knew the rule. If Kenny was coming for you, brace yourself. You were going to hit the ground, and you were going to remember it. Even decades later, people still say the same thing. He'd be a dominant safety in any era. Speed, instinct, timing, explosiveness, they're all words analysts throw around, but with Kenny Easley, they weren't enough. He had something else, something that made him feel inevitable. It was that unique combination of athletic grace and raw intimidation that separated him from everyone else lined up on the field. His talent didn't grow overnight. It began at UCLA, where he set school records and became the first player in Pac-10 history to be named first-team All-Conference 4 years in a row. For years. Nobody does that. 19 interceptions, 374 tackles, 9th in Heisman voting, an almost unheard-of achievement for a defensive back. By the time the 1981 NFL Draft rolled around, everyone already knew what he could become. Seattle took him with the 4th overall pick. From that moment, the story was already writing itself. Then came 1984, his masterpiece. 10 interceptions. Defensive Player of the Year. Every game felt like a display of his instinct and precision. Watching him that season, you got the sense you were witnessing something that wouldn't come around again. A player at the absolute peak of talent, discipline, and edge. A player redefining what a safety could be. But the story of Kenny Easley isn't just about greatness. It's also about the cruelty of fate. His career didn't end on a field surrounded by cheering fans. It ended in a hospital room, facing a kidney condition that emerged far too early. At 28 years old, when most players are just beginning their prime, he was forced to retire. No farewell tour. No final celebration. Just a quiet, painful exit from the one thing he had dominated so fully. The news shocked the league at the time. When you watch someone play with that level of aggression and control, you don't imagine their body giving out before their passion does. But that's exactly what happened. And the aftermath wasn't simple. Easley later sued the Seahawks, arguing that high doses of ibuprofen prescribed by the team caused irreversible kidney damage. It was a hard chapter for him, for the team, and for the sport. Eventually, they reached a settlement. In 1990, he received a kidney transplant. For years, the wound lingered, not just physically but emotionally. The relationship between Easley and the Seahawks seemed broken, and fans wondered if it would ever heal. Then something remarkable happened. Time softened the sharp edges, conversations reopened, and eventually reconciliation came. He reconnected with the organization, and in 2002, his name was added to the Seattle Seahawks Ring of Honor. It was more than a tribute, it was closure. And in 2017, they retired his number, 45. That same year, he entered the Pro Football Hall of Fame, joining the Immortals. Watching him stand there, delivering his speech, you could see a man who had lived a complicated life, who carried pride, hurt, victory, and vulnerability all at once. He had fought battles few people knew about. He had endured highs and lows that would have broken others. But he was still standing, still fierce, still Kenny Easley. Even decades after his retirement, people continued to look up to him. Former players called him an inspiration. Fans remembered the way he changed games. UCLA still celebrated him as one of the greatest defenders in school history. His legacy reached beyond the stadiums he once dominated. He embodied excellence, resilience, and the kind of toughness that leaves a permanent mark on anyone who watches him play. So when the news came that he was gone, it wasn't just a headline. It was a reminder of how deeply his presence had been felt. His death created a moment of reflection, not only about the player he was, but the man he became. A father, a leader, a symbol of strength. Someone who inspired thousands. Someone who crossed eras of football and remained unforgettable every step of the way. There's an image that many fans can't shake. Kenny Easley standing in a stadium, arms crossed, helmet under his arm, staring out like a general surveying the battlefield. That expression, focused, calm, unbreakable, that's how people remember him. It's how they always will. As the football world mourns, another truth rises quietly with it. Kenny Easley may no longer walk among us, but the sound of his impact, every hit, every interception, every moment he made a stadium roar, still echoes. He didn't just play football. He helped define it. And maybe that's the most powerful thing about legends. Long after the lights dim and the fields fall silent, their stories continue. Their influence lives on through the people who watched them, learned from them, and were inspired by them. Kenny Easley was one of those rare players who didn't need decades to prove himself. 7 years were enough. More than enough. Today, fans grieve. Teammates remember. His family holds on to their memories. And the sport he helped shape pauses for a moment, honoring a man who gave everything he had, sometimes more than he should have, to the game he loved. Kenny Easley leaves behind a legacy carved into football history with precision, grit, and undeniable greatness. He leaves behind a reminder that true impact isn't measured by time. It's measured by the mark you leave behind. And his mark, it's permanent. He was 66. Gone far too soon, but never forgotten. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to daily updates and never miss a video.